Well, how about that? Was that great or what? That's some opening music from the Free Music Archive called Free to Use. And I am here, Alan Levine from OE Global, to do something a little bit wild and crazy that I wanted to do for Open Education Week, was to do something to have a little bit of a kind of a live excitement around Open Education Week, because I know there's a lot of excitement going on already, but there's so much going on that it's really hard to track. And so I thought, what if we had like a daily show where we just shared what's going on, and then we mainly, the big thing is inviting some people into the studio just for some informal conversation about what they're doing this week or what they're working on, and just have some great conversation. And so I don't want to talk too long because we really have a great group of people here, but just to do a little bit of overview, obviously, people have seen the Open Education site. The thing that you want to pay key to is this daily schedule. And this is the best way to know what's going on. The most important thing is that the times here are shown in your local time zone. So you can see my time zone is America, Regina. And so you don't have to futz around with time. And right now, if you scroll down, if I get to the right spot, there we are. That's where we are right now. It's 10 o'clock for me. It's a different time for other people. And a new thing that you can do is you can add little bookmarks to different events. So if I wanted to come to the Leadership for Digital Transformation coming from eCampus Ontario, it's like, wow, that sounds really good. I'm just going to do a little bookmark here. And as you go around examining, we've got some great ones. We've got an introduction to copyright from Athabasca University. In 2 hours from now, OE Global's new director, Andrea Innamorato, is going to come on and give her perspective and views in this talk show format. But we have some other great ones, and you can sort of see we're moving through time. We're kind of in North America right now. We've got a really great one that I would want to tune into from University of Windsor is they have a student panel on using OER resources. I bet this is just going to be fantastic. I would definitely want to sign up for that. Madison area technical libraries have a ton of events going on. They've got something on building equity in education. And this one from BCIT, just the title gets me, create buds, branches, and barks. So it's an instructor sharing her experience on building a plant identification OER. And so a great chance to hear from a practitioner about what goes on. So I don't need to tell you everything that's going on because you can come here and read the screen. I just also want to let you know that we have a lot of things going on in our OEG Connect community, which is the other place where I spend a lot of time making noise. This is an open space where we have announcements of things, but more than that, we have activities and discussions. And so one thing I hope that people do is as they go through OEWeek, that they come here and they kind of share what they observe or see or ask questions. And so this is a place to connect with each other. That is quite probably enough of me blabbing about OEWeek. So right now I'm going to just stop my screen sharing and come back here. And so what we really want to do, and we're going to wave to Alex Enkerle, who's like one of my most enthusiastic participations, is to bring on stage. We have 4 guests who volunteered to be part of my crazy experiment. And so we're going to bring them on stage so we can say hello to them, because it's been enough of Alan blabbing. And so we're going to just bring everybody on right now so they can say hello. And really glad to have Jen Wetzler from Creative Commons and Maren Deepwell from Alt and Catherine Cronin. And hello, Jennifer. Great to meet you here for the first time. So first of all, I just want to give a chance for everybody, just do the brief intro and tell us where in the world you are and what is the next thing that you're going to be doing on Open Education Week. So I'll call first on Jennifer, because she's like brand new. And I know there's a lot going on with LibreText. There's so much going on. I really appreciate everything they're going. So hello, Jennifer.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Jennifer Rogers. I'm the outreach coordinator for LibreTexts. I came on about 2018 when LibreText got the big U.S. Department of Education Open Textbook Pilot Grant, and been here ever since. So as Alan mentioned, we have a lot going on this week. I'll just start by saying I myself am in San Diego, California, proud Californian. So I'll just start there, I guess. Sorry, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to babble a lot, and you're probably going to hear my dog breathing / snoring in the background. So heads up on that. Sorry.
It's perfectly acceptable to bring dogs on stage. Mine will come, and I know I'll turn now to Maren Deepwell because I want to hear about Posey, her dog, and really great to have Maren here. We've been colleagues for a long time, and we're trying to do some things between OE Global and her organization. Well, welcome, Maren. How are you today?
Hi, Ellen. Hi, everybody. Really well here in Cardiff in the UK. We're so excited to be part of Open Education Week. I'm the CEO of the Association for Learning Technology here in the UK, and we've been championing open education for 30 years. So one of the things I want to share with you this week is what's going on in our community and how we are leveraging the power of 30 years of open educational resources.
Fantastic. And thank you for joining. It's actually later in your day, so I appreciate you being here. And I know it's probably taken away from your time to go outside and walk with Posey, but you'll get that in. So next I want to welcome Jen Wetzler from Creative Commons, and she's doing so much she could probably fill the show, but it's so great to have you here, Jen. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's really a delight to get to help kick off Open Education Week this year. So great to be here with the other folks here as well. So I'm here in Mount Rainier, Maryland in the US, and I am I'm working on a number of different projects through our Open Education platform, but really excited about some of the things that are going to be coming out. I think we'll have probably a blog post pretty soon about some of the really wonderful activities that community members will be doing, from a project in Malaysia to support OER for climate change, to a project in Italy and Ukraine to translate a MOOC from Italian to Ukrainian to support educators and academic librarians in Ukraine, and a lot more coming. So we're very excited to be here. I know we've got some more Creative Commons stuff coming up this week, so just can't wait to see what's next.
Excellent. And saving, maybe I won't say the best for last, but a dear friend of mine and colleague, Catherine Cronin, who has been such a pillar for this community and still very active in many things. And we got to talk a month ago for a podcast, but welcome back again, Catherine, and let us know how your day is looking or your week is looking.
Thank you, Alan. You are so kind. Great to be here with everybody. I am normally based in Ireland, as most people know, but I'm actually sitting in London at the moment. I'm traveling this week, so my participation is going to be a little bit patchy in Open Education Week, but I've already managed to join the Eden kickoff, which started an hour ago, and that was really interesting. And there's another Eden event on Wednesday, which I'll be joining, Open Educational Practices as a Catalyst for Innovation. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about my GoGN fellowship from the past year, and maybe of more interest, an open access book that Laura Chernowich and I are just finishing, an edited collection called Higher Education for Good.
That's so excellent. And now I'm left to say, what do we do here? It's so one of the things is all of you are very active in Open Education Week. And, we all understand that everybody here supports it and is great of it. How do you manage it? How do you have to shuffle between things you've committed to participating in. But how do you also sort of be able to dip in and sample everything else that's going on?
Do you want us to just jump in, Ellen?
Yeah. I'm not going to call on people. Well, I might. But somebody will slap me if I do that. Yeah, thank you.
Well, one of the things that we are, our members are organizing coming up next month is an Open Education Conference, OER 23. One of the ways in which I keep up to date with things is kind of being actively involved in that volunteer community of about 100 folk from different parts of the world. And I think it's really interesting to see kind of how people are, at different stages of their open journey, I guess. And one of the things I was reflecting on when you posted the opening blog post, Ellen, was, that last year we celebrated 10 years on Open Education Week. Now we're looking ahead to a new decade. And I'm really seeing, particularly in our community, whole new projects, new initiatives, new communities kind of coming to this movement. And I'd be very interested to hear what, other folks' experiences of sort of, lots of new institutions and new colleagues joining open education.
Fantastic.
I love that question. I'm also really curious to hear what other folks, I guess, suggestions are for staying on top of all of the different wonderful events that are happening this week and also beyond this week for the rest of the, I guess, upcoming 10 years. But in terms of new folks coming into this movement or collection of movements, I think that's like one of the best things about what we do is bringing in new and adjacent communities and also seeing like what new opportunities kind of emerge with, with new ideas, with getting outside the echo chamber that can often happen within the open education community. I guess not original folks, but a lot of folks who have been in this space for a while. I think finding the adjacent communities where we have some role to play, but it may not be as directly apparent right off the bat is so fascinating. It's kind of like the intersectionality that open education can lend itself to. That's, kind of my favorite.
That's great. And I also want to come back to that really fantastic question you shared that we'll touch base on after everybody else has some input, maybe. Anybody else?
I'm happy to piggyback on that. I love what both Maren and Jenren just said, and particularly about intersectionality. And I just tuned in an hour ago, as I said, to the first Eden event, and I just left that to come here. And it's obvious that some people are talking about the need that we continually have to do awareness raising, and there are new audiences and new people getting interested in open all the time. And like Jenren says, I think that's a really positive thing. But I think it's useful to hold on to the idea that all social movements for change, if you think of anything like anti-racism and feminism and civil rights, you're continually educating people about the values and the purpose and so on, as well as doing maybe some of the more advanced policy work that some of us might be doing. So that awareness and inviting and providing openings for people, I think, is just always going to be part of this work. So there's no point getting frustrated about that. It just gets woven into all of the work that we're doing. So I always love Open Education Week, for that reason. New faces and old faces, and kind of weaving that all together.
Yeah, and I get a little overwhelmed. I don't know about other people, like when I see how much is going on and you realize that you can only do so much as an individual. But it is exciting that it is a much larger community than it was when a lot of us started out. So I want to give the stage time, though, for folks to talk about what they're doing this week, because really that was the premise when I invited you in. So I might go back to Jennifer, because like LibreText is like all over the schedule. And so can you just maybe give us sort of an overview about some of the top things that are going on and what you hope to get accomplished this week?
I can certainly try. I will say we have 18 different events on the schedule this week. Which is my whole job with LibreText, right? As Jenren and Maren and Catherine talked about, was bringing new people to the movement. That's basically my entire job, which is part of what I really enjoy about the work. Actually, is getting to talk to people that I would otherwise probably never have come in contact with in any other environment. And LibreText, so we're celebrating 15 years this month, actually. It's been officially 15 years. And in the past, 5 or 6 that I've been involved in the project, we have grown so exponentially that it's admittedly even been hard for me to keep track of all of the cool new things that have been going on. And it's my job to keep track of these things. So that's been really cool to see. And when I say we have all of these events this week, we do, and a lot of those are focused on our technologies, our new technologies. So of course, we're going to be introducing people to Adapt, which is our new open homework and assessment platform. And we actually just got a new grant from the state of California to support that for the next 4 years. So we got $4 million over the next 4 years to help really expand Adapt, especially in STEM fields. And that's also going to make it free for all instructors in California to use and access for those the following 4 years. So we're going to be talking a lot about Adapt. We have our new Commons and Conductor technology that is a really great, the Commons is a catalog, so you can search across everything on the LibreText platform, all 500,000 and counting pages of content. And the Conductor is a really cool project management system that plays really well with our LibreText.org, which is of course our repository / publishing / hosting platform. So we're going to go over all of that cool stuff. We're going to have our wonderful developer who built our studio, which is our H5P generating platform, which is also free. He's going to do a presentation on Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon Pacific time on Studio. But what I like about Open Education Week too is I reach out to a lot of our faculty who are already using LibreText. And it's really cool to have them come in and talk about the things that they're doing for their courses with LibreText. So in about an hour and a half, we have one of our math faculty who's been using LibreText for many, many years, who's going to be talking about adapting an OpenStax calculus book while also adding some of his own content to it. We have a really exciting, I think it's going to be, presentation from Dr. Armeda Reitzel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who actually teaches communication, and she has adapted, she helped co-author actually an interpersonal communication text that she's using with 3 very different populations. She's using it with a community college class, a CSU Humboldt class, and she also has a class of incarcerated students that she's using the same text for. And so I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation as well. And we just get so many cool faculty who come on board and see what LibreText can help them do, how it can help them better control their curriculum and help their students, not just in the cost savings department, but also, like I said, it helps them really adapt and create resources that speak to their students on a more personal level. And so that's part of what I really enjoy about this work. And like I said, yeah, we have a lot going on this week. I can't go over all of it, obviously. Our full schedule is up on our blog, which is just blog.libretext.org for anybody that wants to see it.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all that LibreText is doing. And I know later in the day, I'm having one of the podcast interviews with Delmar Larson. And so I look forward to a more in-depth conversation because he's a fascinating figure to me. I want to maybe, Catherine, do you want to talk more about the book, the Higher Ed for Good? Because I followed it and we talked about it. And
Mm-hmm.
Is it out yet?
It's not out yet, but there is a manuscript, and we have sent it to an open book publisher. And, although all the contributions in the book have been reviewed and edited, the entire manuscript needs to be reviewed now as a whole. And we'll get those comments back in a couple of months. So we're hoping that in the summertime, it'll be published. But basically, for those who might not know about it, we use the hashtag HE4 good. So there's some trails and social media about the development of the book over the past year and a half. But Laura Chernowich and myself, who were co-chairs for one of the OER conferences that Maren was talking about, the OER conferences, we co-chaired the OER conference in 2019 in Galway, and it was a really generative conference in a lot of ways. It was where the idea for the FemEd Tech Quilt was born, and just a lot of other global conversations. One of the keynotes was 3 GoGN researchers. So Laura and I always had the idea that we might want to do another big project in the future. And of course, during COVID times that emerged, and it was just really, both of us were speaking in different places about just, acknowledging that this is truly a time of crisis in a global sense around, the climate crisis and the pandemic and austerity and surveillance capitalism and so many things, but really wanted to focus about what can be done. I think we both felt that some of the really most inspiring work, particularly around climate, is work that really points towards avenues for hope. Where can we devote some energy towards more hopeful futures, recognizing all the challenges. So we sent out a global call at the beginning of 2022. And, just over a year later, we have a full manuscript of 27 chapters. We invited authors to write in whatever genre they wanted. So we have, plenty of academic articles, reflective pieces, dialogue, poetry. We have some artwork in the book. One written in the form of like a graphic story, like a graphic novelette. And authors from 18 countries. So it's a really global look at the future of higher education and what we can do. And so one whole section of the book is about finding hope, finding fortitude and hope, as we call it. And then we highlight work that people are doing, including considering alternative futures, speculative futures, actually making change in the here and now, despite all the constraints that I've mentioned, and not only how to change teaching and learning, but how to really change structures and systems within which we're all embedded. And then we were so bold as to suggest in our chapter a manifesto for higher education for good. We call it Towards a Manifesto for Higher Education for Good, because surely there couldn't be one. We recognize the importance of context and so on, but we really hope that it's just going to be part of these dialogues that are so important around acknowledging despair, but trying to find, as I said, avenues for hope, and being inspiring one another through what we're doing.
That's so exciting, and you'll be even busier probably when that comes out.
And we're really proud also that it's going to be published openly, so that it'll be available for everyone. As soon as it's published, it'll be available to everyone.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. I wanted to, Jen, you're welcome to talk about some of the stuff you're doing with Creative Commons, but you did pose a question, and this is kind of, what I thought maybe we could do. And we also have a really great pending question from the chat, but you asked the question, can we talk about how do we find the joy in learning and the work that we do? Because sometimes it feels like I know I have a lot of stress right now because I'm trying to run this show here, and it's but it is fun because you're here, but where do we get to talk about that, Jen? If you want to go in that direction, you're welcome to go anywhere else.
Oh, I actually didn't expect the question to come back at me. Yeah. So one of the things that one of our certificate facilitators noted in an email to her class was that learning has to be about joy. I mean, that's when we do our best learning. That's when you really feel the change that I think is needed in education. So where do we find it? I think I'm probably at a loss. I feel like I likely can cite ways that I undermine my own chances of that through overbooking my schedule and not deliberately carving out that kind of deep thinking, slowing down, focused time in my calendar to really enjoy what I do. And when I do, I love the connections I make to people. I know already everybody here I have a connection to at least. So I know for LibreTexts, we were citing you left and right, and we had a recent boot camp in California where all of the teachers were really excited about looking at LibreTexts to creating kind of adjacent materials that will help others understand and start to work into the LibreText systems. I know we have a lot of work with Gojian, and might be actually working with Backpit to translate our certificate content again, which is just really wonderful. I know we have a long-standing connection to OE Global, obviously, and then Catherine, your work is cited all over the place. So we've brought in your readings into some certificate discussions and so on. So it's so much fun to find a little bit of downtime to enjoy those connections, and then also, downtime to keep learning in new ways that I guess you don't expect. Yeah, the thing that's most exciting me right now is a couple of my projects got a little bit postponed for the start of this year. So I found myself with a little bit of extra time to take Copyright X at long last. And I was so delighted to start this. It's funny, it's fun and relevant. And it makes me excited to do the homework every week, which yeah, is probably a little bit ridiculous, but that's definitely brought me a lot of joy lately. And it's good to see Alexander. Hey, Alex.
Alex is prolific, and so I appreciate. Anybody else on joy? Feel free to pass. If I say, like, if you don't want joy, but I know we all want joy. But you really touch on some things about the tension and wanting to do so much with our work. At the same time, that spark is pretty important. Anybody else on that?
Yes, I would like to just make a comment on joy. This is actually sort of my second go around at trying to figure out what to do with my life, if you will. I am also a librarian by training. I've been a librarian for many, many years. But it, for many, many years, also started to feel like maybe it wasn't a very good fit for me. And so when I discovered LibreTexts and when I officially became a part of this team, that sparked just an indescribable amount of joy for me. And, you know, I tell Delmar this all the time. I'm making it up as I go along, right? I mean, I did not officially study outreach or communication in any capacity. I was an English major. I had degrees in English. So I like to think I can communicate effectively, partially because of that. But, you know, as Jenren says, just working in this space and making connections with other people and just knowing day in and day out that the work that you're doing matters, to me, it has just been completely invaluable in so many ways. And so that sparks joy for me. I wish that I had time to do a lot more than I do. I have 2 small children and dogs and a husband, and life very often gets in the way, as I think. So I look forward to working on that part as my children age and are a little bit more independent. But yeah, I do think that joy is absolutely one of the reasons that I'm here and that I'm doing this work. And I think it's because so many of the people in this space feel that same way, that, you know, that's what keeps us going.
I think I see a lot of heads nodding, and my heart is nodding too. So thank you for that. I wonder, I feel like I'm just like telling people what to talk about. You can tell me to shut up. Okay. There's like a shut up button, Alan. But I know, you know, Maren, you're developing your coaching practice, and I'm wondering, like, what are you seeing in the people who kind of reach out for kind of life career coaching? Do they are people looking for some of these same things that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, I think. But I'm certainly part of a number of communities, like the FemEdTech community that Catherine mentioned earlier, and you know, also the Open Education Special Interest Group that I'm involved in through the association. And I think many of us are looking for, I think what someone in the chat mentioned, is sort of, you know, moving beyond cynicism, trying to be constructive and hopeful in what we do. So I think that is a really poignant point, particularly for those of us, like in my sector, we work heavily with technology, and part of the work that we've been doing on sort of ethical approaches to using learning technology, I think, is very closely aligned to the kind of work we're trying to do in the open. But I also think on a personal level, many people are kind of still reevaluating, you know, post-COVID. And I think, you know, depending on where you are in the globe, the post-pandemic reality looks a bit different and you're maybe further along in the journey than others. So I think it's really, inspiring to see people kind of looking at, more fundamental questions, sort of how they can use their work for good. And I'm very much looking forward to your book, Catherine, and the stories that will inspire. So yeah, I think we're all looking for a little bit more joy. But I'm also very aware that the scale of the challenge keeps growing. And that is one of the things I find helpful about Open Education Week, is that it reminds me of how big the movement is. Because globally, there's more learners, more teachers, more institutions, more demand for higher education, more skilled shortages, more need all around. And that can seem daunting, I think, at times, as well as hopeful.
Yeah, I think we're all agreeing with that too. I would just say, like, my joy comes from like small bits of serendipity. I talk about all this time, but most of the people in this room, like I met you through introduction of others or interactions where I forget. And so the small things that happen when someone sends you a message or appreciation or asks you a question. And so that's how I got integrated. Like, I was living in Arizona when I got involved with ALT and the OER conferences. And it was mainly through kind of like, this kind of permeable boundaries that were enabled at some point by platforms that are now kind of going another way. And so struggling with that at the same time. Anybody else want to like throw a comment out? We have a really good question that I might put on the screen to stimulate some discussion, but I don't want to feel like I'm too much of a traffic cop here.
I have to jump into the joy conversation.
Oh, I didn't mean to take away your joy, Catherine. What a terrible host.
I'm just looking at all of you on my screen here and listening and just thinking, like, this group really just embodies, I think, what's so joyful about open education for me. There's like a level of humility on the part of everybody, just saying, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm doing my best here. And also that we're doing it together. I mean, Alan, as much as it feels like you're on a tightrope, you knew that we were all going to be with you, right? So, and that's what we're all doing, and we do it in our work as well. So, and just that kind of idea that's inherent in open, that we're always smudging the boundaries. We're not really held in by rigid boundaries. It's the essence of open. We want to share beyond. So, that's a value I think that we all share. So there's just, I find joy in that, and I just think this group is emblematic of it. So thanks.
Yeah, very well said. And thank you for being here. I had a mentor when I started in this work who, when I was stressing over organizing my first conference, said, like, Alan, all you have to do is get people in a room together and give them something worthwhile doing, and they will take care of it. And that was what I hoped would happen here, rather than trying to strictly orchestrate this. I thought maybe our friend Alex, who's listening attentively, we'll wave to him. So I have a question about talking about the community in a way that are we moving in the same direction? I would say we're moving in many directions. And how do we deal about, like, not only tensions between our approaches, but what those directions are? And maybe that's too vague, but we talk about our open education community, and even that is hard for me to define because it's a lot of overlapping spheres. Any responses to Alex's challenging question? And thank you, Alex.
I would love to jump in on this, and then by all means, I'd love to hear what everyone says. But this is really one of the things that I think about a lot, Alex. I think it's a great question, and it relates to what I started doing a few years ago after being in open for a while, was looking at other social movements for change. And you might know that in Ireland, for example, we had a same-sex marriage referendum in 2015. And that campaign has been going for many years. And I would be aware that within that movement there were people who were really fighting for same-sex marriage, and others saying, why are we fighting in that direction? We should be marching in the streets. We should be fighting this battle, or we should be fighting that battle. And a few years ago, the same kind of thing started happening in open, where people were devoting themselves to different areas, and maybe the tensions arose. But I honestly think that that's part of any major movement for change. And so, for me, it's a matter of, kind of acknowledging that tension will be there as this becomes a bigger force, within education and globally. Sometimes those things need to be kind of dealt with and figured out, within an institution or within an organization. But at another level, I think it's just part of, a mature movement, that you are going to have those tensions. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean, I certainly look at it differently now than I did a number of years ago. I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say.
So the tension is part of the natural process in a way for an organism or for an entity. It can't all be smooth and joy kumbaya. Anybody else want to jump in with? Yeah.
I would second that. I remember reading this book called, I think it was like Rise of an Empire by Amy Chua, that looked at just that how, I'm going to butcher it now, but she was looking at how the very thing that helped empires, or I guess movements in this case, rise was the inclusivity and acceptance of diversity. And that was the single element that caused the fractioning of these empires in the long run. And I don't think that analogy necessarily applies through and through to our movement. I actually think we have a number of different open education movements. I think to say there's one definition of this or that, one movement that everyone can identify under, really ultimately overlooks a lot of the important differences. And I think what Catherine was saying is right on. I think we're at a point where there's so many different kind of components to consider, so many different vantage points, that it's really healthy to have some areas of tension where we can acknowledge that it's not uniform. I think that's actually a big strength.
I like that a lot. And I definitely want to follow up on that book there. So where should we go next? Anybody? I think sometimes like it's so the hype now about artificial intelligence, and I'm kind of tired of it. At the same time, intrigued. And so that kind of came out of nowhere. And so sometimes I wonder like how much of the things are we responding to, and where are the things that we can get in front of? And so this one seems to be like causing a lot of disruption. How are other people seeing this thing that some describe as an inevitable?
Well, maybe I can jump in here. Our community, as they're quite tech focused, are very interested in artificial intelligence. And one example of a tool that's currently kind of attracting huge webinar crowds is GPT, and I'm sure we've all heard enough about it already. But it is, I think, an interesting idea to discuss in the context of access and openness, because I think many of these sort of early tests in classrooms and institutions across the world were all based on kind of a free access model where people were having a play, having a go. And now we're seeing freemium models introduced, maybe institutional subscription models introduced, where depending on where you stand on could be a very helpful tool for students, could be an unhelpful tool for learning, but ultimately it might come down to institutional access and subscriptions. And that is, I think, a really good example of what, particularly here in the UK, really dominates our discourse around open education. I don't think we have quite the same level of acceptance, even of open textbooks. We look at with great inspiration towards what's happening in the US and the open textbook movement there. But certainly here, we don't embrace it quite as fully, and certainly we don't fund it at the same scale. So I think for many institutions in European countries and in the UK, the sort of freemium model and the institutional subscription model is very deeply ingrained, and sort of, stands in kind of contrast to the openness that we're hoping to promote and embrace. So that is certainly one of the things that our community is really focused on at the moment.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to say, because I think she will jump in, that Creative Commons has been out in front of this, and they've been writing some really provocative and helpful posts and running events to share this, because I find it really confounds our concepts, because we don't know how these things work, and we're trying to apply some experience and ways of understanding that don't really flesh out, because we don't know what happens when these things spit out something. Any thoughts there, Jenren?
I think it's a really fascinating place for, or I guess a new frontier for copyright in particular. I'm really eager to see what emerges as we see more creative uses, as we see case law around it, and so on. I'm not an expert in this space by any means, but I've seen such a range of responses. It's in my mind almost like an analogy to previous tech advances where we've also had a range of responses. So, the invention of a camera disrupted the copyright system and understanding of like what should be copyrighted, what should be considered creative work when we're using a new tool, and so on. And then, I mean, we're looking at all of the rightful pushback among artists who feel like their work has been misappropriated and so on, and what roles we can play in this larger system to kind of acknowledge this changing reality. So I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm more on the excited side of it, probably because I don't know. Like, I don't know what I don't know, but in particular, I'm excited to see how we might be able to easily translate texts into different languages to make educational materials more available to other communities that don't have it in their language, as an example. But yeah, we will see. I know we have a lot of options for community engagement on the AI discussions, and then some additional work soon too. So we're still trying to figure out the role CC can play in this space.
Yeah, and definitely, I know she'll probably jump in, but LibreText was out in front of this with their translation. That whole effort to translate a lot of their material to Ukrainian during the war last year was such a fantastic use of that technology. So, I sometimes I hesitate to bring it up because like everybody's tired of hearing about it, but it's interesting more as a phenomena about how we address something that changed like that at that level. So it's like as Catherine was alluding to earlier, that disruption and the things that are maybe discomforting are part of the way things play out.
Yeah, and and with any new innovation, just really being clear about our values, even when things are tipping and changing and so on. So like with the Chat GPT, for example, where is the content moderation happening? What humans are doing that? We know there's an awful lot of inequality there. So, not just really looking at the technology and what is said about it by those who are producing it, but really looking at the big picture and taking a step back. And that's kind of our role, really, isn't it, as critical educators?
Yeah. Well, thank you for kind of taking questions from left field, and Jenren, I threw the Joey question at you, and I appreciate that. Maybe with some of the last time left, we just want to hear about like what are some of the things you're doing in the next day, like for your activities and participation, which can include going out for a walk. I think that should be on the list. Anybody want to like just say like what you're going to be doing next or what you're looking forward to later in the day? Yeah, Jenren.
Okay, Alan, in the interest of balance,
sorry.
the reason,
Yeah.
sorry,
That's
I jumped
okay.
in there, Jenren. The reason I'm in London this week, I have my daughter lives here. I also have a niece who's doing a semester in London and who's turning 21 tomorrow. So I'm combining work and family, and that's the optimum for me. So after this session today, that's it for me. It's heading for 5 o'clock, as Maren knows. So I'm going to be doing some social things tonight and tomorrow. And then as I said, I'm going to be joining the next Eden webinar on Wednesday on open educational practices, and hopefully a few more events this week.
Excellent. And the timing thing is something that everybody here, who works internationally knows that as much as you try somewhere, you're messing up someone's time zone. And so, and we know that there's times when you're going to be called to have to do something at 3 a.m. So anybody else want to pop in with what they're looking forward to in the next wave of Open Education Week?
Well, like Catherine, it is been a very full day of Open Education Week already today. So what I have in store tomorrow is the OER 23 GoGN Fellowship piece. I'm really looking forward, Ellen, to seeing some of those colleagues join you on Thursday for the live show, I think. But between now and then, one of the things we're really focusing on is helping get the word out and hopefully reaching some new people in our community.
Yeah, excellent. And I want to thank Jacqueline from the YouTube chat for doing the shout out. Like, I've been trying to figure out, like, I think, and Wikipedia is obviously a big focus for a lot of folks, but there's so much more that I think we can do in that space. So I'm really, that's kind of on my plate to tackle on. I did take the Wikidata Institute, where I got fascinated and overwhelmed at the same time. But to me, like, if anything exemplifies what the open education community is as a success story and a potential engine, it's not just Wikipedia, it's the whole federation of things. With that, like, anybody else sort of want to pipe in with our kind of last round or talk about their plans for dinner?
Just a quick shout out to Jackie. It's so nice to see you here. Jackie helped us translate the certificate content into Spanish. So really great to see more connections. We have a bunch of activities for Open Education Week, but I'm also really excited that, knock on wood, we'll be able to put out a position announcement for a new staff member at CC for the learning and training manager position. So hopefully we'll be able to collaborate with the community more soon in this hiring moment. Oh, actually, one other quick thing, if that's all right.
Yeah.
One of the assets that we added to the library of assets was this really great webinar that our community members held that's adjacent to but very related to open education work, and it was called Anti-Colonial Knowledge. And this is something that we get to run for our training courses fairly regularly, but I always learn something new in this Q&A discussion with an expert in this field. So anyway, if folks have a chance, just take a look at that video and some of the other CC videos that our community members have led.
I think I'm putting that URL in the chat for your playlist of there's a lot of great things. I love the lightning talks, and I know last year it kind of overlapped with Open Education Week, and I sort of said to Jennifer, what if he just like replayed some of them? So she maybe not that's the reason why it happened, but I was really glad to put this together to see some more things from that, because it's a great format for sharing. Anybody else? I know Jennifer's like got the full schedule.
Yes, my week is very, very full, online specifically. I just want to piggyback for a second on the translation and say, yeah, we did submit our Ukrainian library as an asset on the OE Global website. So I hope people will check that out. And we're also working on translating all of our content into, I can't even remember how many languages at this point. So that's definitely an ongoing effort at LibreText to make our content more inclusive. I want to shout out, as Alan mentioned, his podcast later in the day. Delmar is going to be on talking about who knows what. I don't know what you have planned, Alan, but I do think that Delmar's story is a very, very interesting, very worthwhile story for people who have not heard it, as to how he got into this space. And he is very, very passionate about open education, as anyone who has ever had any kind of interaction with him recognizes. But it's really quite cool to hear it directly from him. So I definitely think everybody should check that out. like I said, I can't shout out everything that we're doing. It's too much. But I do hope that you'll check it out on our blog and join us for some of our sessions. We'll record them all and put them on our YouTube channel later. But at some point, I hope to take the dogs out for a walk. Going to be my goal for the day, which I enjoy doing when the human children are not here because it's just easier. So that will be my, fingers crossed, my other goal for the day.
Okay, well, everybody who's going to be walking dogs will kind of wave at the same time because a lot of us know. And cats. I have cats too. I just want to let you know that Cog Dog has cats. And also, I'm really, honestly, I want to have this, like, it's selfish. I want to have like a chat with Delmar because he's fascinating and he's a chemistry professor. Like, he's running this organization and he's also teaching. And so
Yes,
his story is interesting.
He has 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Basically. I don't know when he sleeps or eats.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah. I have one question for Jenren. I want to know if she plays that banjo behind her.
I don't. It's my husband's, and I really. Yeah.
That's okay. My husband plays the banjo too. That's why I wanted to know if it was you.
I feel like I've told Alan this, but yeah, it's definitely it's like the one place that he wants it, but it's false advertising as far as
That's okay. You could also just lie and tell people you play it.
That's gonna come back to bite me
until someone calls you out on it.
Yeah.
See, like I know I'm all for like the virtual backgrounds and I understand them, but I kind of like seeing where people are. To me, that's always fascinating. And just to reinforce the podcasts that we do are basically, I mean, we do these podcasts all the time, just with me and the guests. And so for the Open Education Week, we kind of leave room to invite, maybe 10 people who want to sit in on this, but you'll be able to hear this definitely when Alan gets around to producing it. And also, speaking of the Ukraine, the one I'm really also excited about is Wednesday. We're working with Paula Corti and the Spark librarians who did this fantastic project with these heroic librarians at the Ukrainian Institute of Technology and blank, but basically they were doing all this work to preserve important Ukrainian cultural heritage and knowledge and develop OER practices, while the bombs were going off. And so on Wednesday, we're talking to Paula and her colleague, but hopefully we're going to have one of the librarians from the Ukrainian come on and be part of the podcast. And the caveat was Paula said, if she has electricity. So if anything says something about like the disparity of the world in which we live in, it's like that people would want to be part of a podcast if they have electricity. So we're almost at the end here, and I just thank everybody for coming. Do you have any suggestions for what I should do? Because I'm doing like a bunch more of these. Like, is this format okay? Like, what how should I run these? Like,
I think we've all been enjoying it.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Alan, for bringing together the conversation. I always really appreciate the spaces in between formal sessions, and it gives a warm, welcoming, kind of very human feel to this week. So I think it's a great idea.
Likewise. Absolutely. Thanks, Alan.
Okay. And I just appreciate everybody's enthusiasm for this uncertain format. And I hope we have a great rest of Open Education Week, and we'll see you in all the other spaces. With that, we're going to cue the band to play the outro music. And again, I have to put in there, if I didn't say so, this is a track from Free Music Archive from an artist named Ketsa called Free to Use. And so it just was kind of some good music. So with that, thank you, everybody. Have a great Monday and
Bye, everyone.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.